ever feel alone in the culture war, or see everything around you crumbling to ashes and dust, and you're kind of tired of it, but you feel like there's no one out there that would support you? Well, I've got 3 sites that actually might change your mind. So first we have MetaPCs. MetaPCs is a fantastic PC making company. They'll have pre-mades, they'll have all sorts of customs that you can make. You can get cases, possibly engravings and all that type of stuff. Like whatever you want, they can get it working for you. And they've got some pretty snazzy stuff. So check out MetaPCs. You can use the Geeks and Gamers code, which is 199, in order to get a percentage off of whatever you want to purchase. Check them out. Another one that's also really good is DEG Mods. DEG Mods and Ayaka Mods, which I will show you in a second, both share a common enemy in Nexus Mods. So if you've ever tried modding a game, Nexus Mods has been more pro-censorship and not allowing you, the gamer, to pick what you want to pick, play what you want to play, and mod your game the way you want to mod your game, because they don't believe you have the right, because it might be politically inconvenient for them. So both DEG Mods and Ayaka Mods are both alternatives, and there are others, but these are the 2 main ones that I've heard about that can definitely change your view on who's out there and who's supporting what you yourself are looking for in any type of game or otherwise. Modding sites can be not safe for work, so please use your own discernment and know that you're not alone. There are other people like myself and Geeks and Gamers, Nerdrotic, and the hundreds if not thousands of other channels that are trying to do something good in the YouTube sphere against this pretty nasty counter-stroke against us. So check out those 3 sites if you are interested in supporting those that support us. I make no money off of this. This is purely because I support what they do. So have a great day. Welcome, my friends and enemies. Glad you are here. I am joined once again with Inquisitor Matastic. I hope I said that right.
Yes.
It could be Matastic or it could be Matastic or something. I don't know.
Well, it's debating between being matastic or being metastasizing.
What was that?
Cancer.
No, I was trying to think of another name that is rolling around in my brain, but I couldn't lock in on it. It is what it is. But we are here, and we are not queer. At least I'm not. But I would say it's safe to presume Matt's not either. But hey, who knows? We still love
perhaps
you.
in the ancient meaning of the word before it was taken away by the gay community.
Well, I mean, you are queer in the ancient sense, as I probably am as well, but not in the modern sense, because they don't understand how words work or definitions. But
Well, they stole the word, but that's a whole other topic.
they literally nuked it from orbit just to be sure. But we have a little video that we are going to be looking at as a response, since I have another video that's coming out this week. Well, before this video, obviously. That is a little bit longer, but it was a remake of a long video that I made. That's depressing that I lost. But this one's shorter, and so we might actually make it through in a reasonable time period, but still have a decent long-form content. So, are you ready, good sir?
I am indeed.
Okay. Now, before I start, because I always do this at the end and I forget to do it at the beginning. Promotions. In the description, you have Twitter/X if you'd like to follow me, or Matt. Well, I don't know, Matt, you don't have Twitter, do you? Or do you? I don't know.
I have a Twitter.
Okay, he has Twitter too, which you'll have to go to his page to get, probably.
Yep.
But his YouTube will be in the description. But you can also follow me there, and also I have a Discord page for the questioners that we do lots of memes, and we do a lot of interaction between myself and the people in the Discord. And I'm doing live streams every Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. And if you want to join, it's usually like a 6-hour run through. So we get done like 3 in the morning, but hey, who knows? Also, there's several sections. One's for games that I have that I can play, that people can vote on what they want to see me play. They have one that they can make recommendations if they would like to see me play a game that I don't have, and then I can figure out if I can get my hands on it or not. Things like that, fun to do. The Battle from Middle Earth installation download process is painstaking detail, like pedantic to no end, because I love that game and it's abandonware, and the guys who made the all-in-one launcher that makes the game playable, it's fantastic. So if you would like to play with me or anybody else in the Discord that is interested in playing it, go check that out as well in the Discord. And also, let's just hang out and chat. It's just fun, cool stuff. But also, if you like anime, you should check out Crimson Law, which I'll have him in the description so you can check out his channel. And he does things on Saturdays. He does live streams for basically just what animes are recent that came out during the week and what his thoughts are, if they're going up on a list or down on a list. He does a whole list thingy, and you can just chill and hang out in the chat, or take in his thoughts, put in your own, whatever the case might be. But he also does some smaller videos where he just, says, hey, here's what I thought about this video and anime here recently. So check him out if you're into that kind of stuff. Or if you're into movie reviews or any type of wrestling type stuff, check out Matt, because he's got some cool stuff on his channel, and he also does guestings on other people's channels as well that also cover similar topics. So he'll probably promote himself a lot on his own channel. So hopefully, and obviously he'll be able to promote himself at the end of the video. But hey, get that out of the way now so I don't have to do it later. So now that all that's out of the way, let's jump into the world of insanity. Now keep in mind, this video is about a year old. But since Stellar Blade did just re-release, it's kind of popped up in the algorithm again.
Oh, this video. Yeah.
It's a different video than the one I was doing, but yes. I already expect a downside, but we'll get there.
Great art creates conversation.
And these days, video games are a battleground for trending cultural topics. And while I'm personally not a fan of games being used as ammunition for politics or some greater agenda, I also recognize that this is the price of relevance.
It's only controversial because weirdos out there made it controversial. It wasn't controversial other than that, outside of the fact Sony screwed everything up for Shift Up. That's besides the point.
As art becomes relevant, and I do consider video games art, it will be subjected to cultural, political, and religious interpretation. In
What
the
the fuck
past,
is wrong with his
books were
voice?
the
He's got that thing going on where, like the old 70s movies where the voice is out of sync with the video.
No, it's the dual system. It's not on the original.
Okay.
Yeah, it's probably my computer's struggling. Honestly, I have a lot on my computer that I've been trying to clean up and make it work better, but I think it's de novo. It's just jacking me up, but whatever.
the target. In the 80s and 90s, it was film, and today it is video games. In case you have been absent from the internet for the past decade, one of the most contentious topics in video game discussion has been the
You just shared your camera.
depiction
I'm on the
of
phone, so.
Okay.
the female form in gaming. And in the past 10 years, this conversation has gone in circles in terms of artistic analysis. Sure, you can find endless hours of people discussing the cultural and moral implications of how the female form is depicted in gaming, but there is little talk about how the use of sexuality impacts the gameplay experience outside of sales and
Fan service.
His scripts are freaking weird, and he just reads straight from them. It's kind of weird. But, I mean, the pre-order bonus for this was actually a pretty good one. But
because it is my contention that sexuality is a fundamental part of what it means to be human, and that the way a character in a game...
She's not even human.
Did this game ever come out on PC?
Huh?
Did this game ever come out on PC?
Yeah, this past week.
Okay.
Mhm.
I might can finally play it.
Yeah, and I mean it's a fun game, but it's a Souls-like
Although,
style, so I hope you like those.
I don't know. It's one of the costs, I guess.
It's not like Dark Souls or Dark Souls 3 or anything, but it has infuriating bosses because it's a lot of timing and memorization of
Oh, fuck
stuff
that.
it's not that bad. Like they're not like over the top or anything, but it is. I mean, you could probably randomize it and just wail on them and maybe get there, but I'll show you sometime.
I enjoyed the play of Dark Souls. I hated the bosses.
Everybody hates the bosses. That's why you die is the bosses. You don't typically die from the normal use. You die from the bosses.
Game expresses sexuality or suppresses it informs the artistic interpretation of the game, whether intentional or not. A quick and funny example of this is the Resident Evil series, where the games are full of highly attractive people in dire circumstances, and yet they don't seem to harbor the slightest sexual tension or awareness of their own bodies. Is this bad?
I mean, he's obviously never met Ada Wong, but okay.
Is this good?
Well, no, but he's like, okay, if you go into like, I don't know, a U.S. Marine barracks that had some Marine women, they're also highly attractive, but they don't sit around staring at each other all fucking day. You know, I mean, athletic
They say
people
that for at nighttime.
No, athletic people, whether they're athletes or soldiers or whatever, they're going to be more attractive than slubs like you and me, and they don't just sit around like,
Thanks for
oh
calling me
my
a slub.
god, like you're so hot, I'm so hot. That's not what they talk about all day. You know, they don't. They're just used to being attractive, and it's the way it is.
Well, like I mentioned in my other video, this guy has a very strange concept of what is okay in terms of hyper-realistic body types and proportions and also hypersexuality, because where he's okay with Bayonetta, he has got a problem with Eve. It's the weirdest concept, because where Eve is not like pronouncing her sexuality and flaunting herself in a sexual manner. She just moves around like she moves around, and her body is just sensual in nature, where literally Bayonetta will lay on the ground and flip her legs open for you and stuff and do like fancy stuff. She'll blow you a kiss and stuff like that. Like she's openly very sexual, and it's just like, why are you okay with that but you're not okay with Eve? Just blows my mind. But yeah,
it depends on the taste of the player, and I do find it kind of charming, but it does give the games an adolescent feel despite their mature rating. The characters come across more like overgrown teenagers than fully realized adults.
Chris, wait!
I don't have much time. I have to find her.
good old Resident Evil 5.
I'm going with you. These are my people that are dying here.
Are you sure about this? A second ago, you were ready to cut and run.
I can't just turn my back and walk away.
There are no more orders from here on in. It's just us.
We are partners. To the end.
How is this high schooler? Am I missing something?
Remember the mentality of this guy. He's not the.
I mean, from the last video, I can't say I think very highly of his thought process, but he's like,
Well,
this is like high schoolers, and then they're having a dialogue, and I'm like, what
Are they gonna
dialogue?
kiss or something at the end of this? Is that what's gonna go
No,
on?
there's no kissing in Resident Evil, maybe except for Ada Wong or something. She just wants to be his partner. It's literally that simple.
Now let's get moving.
Copy that.
I wouldn't even
They're-
say
they're
that.
okay.
It's not even sexual
So-
tension. It's just
No,
him
no, no.
saying, "I've got a job to
the
do."
way
And she's like,
they-
"I want to be part of that job."
The way they wrote that with the facial expression is a little bit of innuendo in there, but that's not high school level. That's just how some adults in a situation might talk. You know.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is like, she's like, "I want to join you," and he's like, "Hey, you were about to just run away, so you're not going to have my back. And if you're just going to cut and run, then you're going to put my life at risk. And if you're going to put my life at risk, I'd rather you not be here." And she's like, "Hey, these are my people that are dying, so I want in." And it's like, all right, let's do this. And that's kind of a thing. Is like they're giving each other not the lovey-dovey kissy face
No,
eyes,
no.
but they're giving each other
So
the I'm
biologically,
serious.
what the people who wrote that scene are very understanding of is, by virtue of her being brave, that impresses him psychologically.
Well,
So,
impression, yes, I understand
so they,
he's impressed, but
so
I'm not saying
that
he's impressed to the point where like, guess I'll bunk her tonight. Yeah.
no, you're not. Okay. So when a woman, biologically speaking, when someone, male or female, who you would, let's say, find somewhat attractive, right, does something that impresses you at a survival level, it triggers hormones that make you find them like horny. It doesn't necessarily become like,
Monkey
oh my God, I
brain
got a
go
bonk
horn. Yes.
but it triggers a primordial mating instinct, right? So that little bit of innuendo at the end is him saying, "Okay, I'm impressed that you're manning up or womaning up." You
I
know?
mean, maybe that's how that works in real life, but that's not how they made the character Chris Redfield.
No, they did.
But-
The writers who did this scene and the animators did a great job putting that little bit of psychology in there.
Well, I'm
didn't
not
go over the
saying that they
top.
didn't make it so he was impressed. I'm saying that the way this is written, like the characters are just not that way. Like Resident Evil characters don't sexualize each other when they're like partners and stuff. That's just not how
They're
it
not
works.
sexualizing each other. They're doing. They put in the natural human response.
I understand. I'm saying
Well-
I agree with the psychology that he's impressed, and I understand that's what they're doing, the whole eyes to eyes thing. I get
Yeah.
that. I'm saying what he's saying, and that it's sexual tension is not there because that's not what was
Well, no,
intended
there's-
by them.
There's a touch at the end, but not in a way that he's saying it, because he's an infantile moron. Like you need, like, I latched onto this within the first early comment to this guy. I was like latching on.
Oh,
to
you're
him.
not talking about Chris. I thought you were talking about Chris Redfield. I was like,
No,
wow.
I'm talking about the guy doing the video.
Oh.
Do you know we did a video on this guy before?
I don't attack the guy as himself, but I will attack his arguments as poor argumentation from the last video I did. But
Well, you can
Yeah.
see. I mean, I don't generally do speaking of myself either, but there's a whole group of cultists out there, who just don't have the mentality to like you and I can, whether we agree or not, we can analyze something and talk about it or whatever, right? We're not trapped in a cult that defines how we perceive the world, you know. This guy like is perceiving this sort of very well done little bit of biology built into this comment, and saying it's high school infantilism or whatever, and that to me,
I don't know what he hasn't referenced in this conversation. Hopefully, right after this,
Well,
he
let him
will.
go. Well, let's let him
but-
go. I'm feeling. I have a prediction of what he's going to say, so let's let him go.
Oh, give me your predictions so we can see if it happens.
I just did. I just told you.
Oh,
so I just
okay.
told you.
Yeah. I
He's
don't.
going to reference.
I think
that little
I
bit
think
of-
he'll mention like this is high school dialogue, and then like we'll go past it, and he'll just move on to the next thing.
Okay.
And in media these days, not
Yep.
only
Called it. He just went to the next thing. Didn't point out at all what it was.
are we becoming increasingly shy about the female figure, which I'll talk about here soon, but we're also becoming even more terrified of any kind of romantic vulnerability or intimacy between characters. There are rom-coms now on Amazon in which the characters barely touch or even talk about their feelings for one another.
That's true.
Wait, this is
The
Ahsoka.
common
It's just the Ahsoka series. It's just awkward silence. They just stare at. Oh my gosh, I hate when shows do that. It's so bad. I mean, I don't think he's necessarily wrong, but I think it's also more of he's not wrong because Hollywood doesn't know how to understand love or like express it to an audience between people without them having copious amounts of sex.
Well, I would say that I think he's in a left-wing cult bubble where
I
They,
don't even know if he's in what I don't know, nor do I really care what his political persuasion might be.
well, the
But-
thing is, regardless of the political persuasion, it produces a mentality which maybe I'm wrong, but I'm seeing this guy as interpreting. For example, he says that the what he said about there's rom-com where they don't even do much romantic behavior or whatever, right?
I mean, he
And-
wasn't wrong about the instance that he just mentioned, but I mean,
but just because you're a rom-com doesn't mean you have to bonk.
no, he was talking about like they don't hold hands, they don't hug, they don't have intimacy. And intimacy does not inherently mean sexual intimacy. It means
Okay.
there's like a relational intimacy. Like you look at somebody and you can tell like, oh, they're having a rough day. I'm gonna go get them
Yeah,
a
but
coffee. That's intimacy.
how often do Lucy and Ricky kiss on I Love Lucy?
I don't know. I don't watch I Love Lucy.
They had that sitcom from the 50s.
Well, I know what I Love Lucy is. I'm just saying
Yeah.
I don't watch it. But that wasn't as much of a rom-com as it was a comedy with some romance involved. It wasn't quite the same. At least from the couple episodes I ever saw, but that was when I was a kid. So I don't know. We'll see what he has.
Consensus that I've seen is that the more serious and important your game is,
Last of Us Part 2? That's where you're going with this? That's a man.
the less quote unquote fan service it should contain. This attitude has plagued one of my favorite series of all time, Dead or Alive, throughout its lifespan.
Oh, I had problems with him bringing up Dead or Alive in my original Lost chapter. Like, put it this way. He thinks it's like he'd rather you play Dead or Alive Extreme, which is like the girl side of things, where it's all about like attractive women playing volleyball, doing all types of things in bikinis, all that kind of stuff. He'd rather you play that than play Stellar Blade. Like it's that weird. And I'm a Dead or Alive person. Like I grew up on
I
Xbox,
purchased
so.
Dead or Alive Volleyball, both. So, hey,
I have pretty much everything Dead or Alive except I think
Yeah.
Dead or Alive 6.
I had no problem with the incredibly well thought out breast models of Dead or Alive.
The jiggle physics and the
Yeah.
butt physics. I have all of them. I have all of the extremes. I have all of the regulars. I like, well, I mean, Ryu Hayabusa got me there and I stayed for everything else. I'm not even that great at like these types of fighting games. I'm better at like Smash Bros, but I think Smash Bros is a superior style of fighting game. I just wish they did it for the other games as well. But he has this weird concept where like Dead or Alive is okay, but Stellar Blade isn't, because
I think he's differentiating between what he could consider serious games and fan service, like fun games.
Well, no, he was talking like, you'll have to watch my other video for this.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna explain it here. We'll be here all night.
And it's gotten to the point where now if I try to explain that yes, I do like the sexual playfulness of DOA aesthetically, but I also think that the game's strong combat system is equally important, that view is taken as seriously as if I said that I read Playboy for the articles. But if you look
I mean, to be fair, some people claim that.
around in other forms of art, even
Playboy had some
something
good
as
articles.
mainstream as pop music, it seems to be understood that sexual expression is a component of engagement, that it is not so easily dismissed as only
Fan service.
expression of the body creates a sense of freedom and openness in a character that can be very compelling. Asserting the sexual attractiveness of one's physical
I'm just gonna point out right now, this is not very appealing. Mostly because I have a feeling the music would be absolutely terrible on top of it. Like the music would be a put off before I even got to the music video, and the music video would just not be inherently better because it's like 90% plastic on that person. It's not even a real person at this point.
I don't even recognize the artist.
I don't either, and I'm just like I was never missing out not seeing this, and now I feel like I wish I was still missing out on this.
body
I mean-
is a sign
Don't get me wrong. There's pop artists like I could enjoy, who have good voices and yeah, they flaunt or whatever.
I mean, maybe they do, but there's a lot of editing and a lot of that stuff. There's a lot of play around, but I listen to
Well,
metal, so
that's granted. That's no. There's even messing with it in metal now too. So don't even.
well, yeah, not the stuff I listen to, but I'm saying like I don't listen to mainstream stuff, so I just listen to the stuff that gives you nightmares because it's cool.
of confidence or insecurity, depending on how it is depicted, which is really interesting. How a character looks, how a character dresses, including attractiveness, says something about that character. Even if the attractiveness
I mean, it means they like to be looked at. That's about it. Or maybe they take care of their body, or they like to stay fit, or like very minimal details. It's not like it's a grand library biography of here's all the things I take out. You could just look at me and tell. Like, you can't look at a person like that and say, oh yeah, that person likes pizza or that person likes salads. You can't just inherently see that.
Is innate, as in born into their physical traits like body type. That also informs the character one way or another. What is a beautiful girl's relationship with her own body? How does she express that relationship? How do the people around her react to her attractiveness?
Except that's not Eve's character. Eve's not there to bonk nobody. She's not there for a romantic encounter. She's not there beyond like friendship. Like, she makes friends and she's like, wow, I have friends now. Like, that's kind of her. Like, she's an innocent.
Well, the content of the
thing.
game is not more adult oriented, right? The same thing.
Well,
with,
I mean, it's adult oriented as in it's the end of the world and you're getting slaughtered or slaughtering lots of people, but it's not
well, I
adult
mean,
in terms
the
of sexual content. No,
I mean, in
no.
the sexual fashion.
There is
The
no
same thing
sexual
with,
content.
What was her favorite name from Final Fantasy? Tifa.
Tifa?
Tifa, right? You know, there's a whole industry of Tifa adult material out there, right?
I wouldn't be surprised. Az is always trying to get her
I can tell
statues
you
and
the
stuff.
fact that
I
took
don't
that
follow Final
character.
Fantasy, so I know like Cloud, Tifa, and Aerith, and I also know that
Well,
Aerith has a bad
They
ending or
took
something.
Tifa
That's
into
all I
the
know.
adult industry and ran with her, so to speak.
You mean ran through her? Just kidding. I don't know because I don't do Final Fantasy stuff, so I limited exposure.
Well, that's what I'm telling you. Like, if you didn't know it,
I know what you're saying, but I'm saying I'm letting you know I didn't know that because I don't follow Final Fantasy. But I don't doubt it. Az is always going on about it. And everyone's giving a hard
and
time.
they're going to do the same thing with this character, basically Eve. I'm sure there's a
Maybe.
burgeoning Eve adult content industry out there, you know.
But like
And-
Eve's mental capacity is kind of like she was created. She had some training, and then she was shot into a battlefield, almost dies. Her commander saves her, and now she's
But
on this
that's not what-
journey.
But they don't care. Like,
Well,
the
I'm
people
not
wanna-
talking about with the adult industry. I'm explaining because he's talking about the character. Based upon her appearance, what is her character? I'm saying her character is that of an innocent person who's trying to save her comrades, who's trying to save either the planet, the civilization. She's trying to figure out who's what, what's where, all that type of stuff. That's what I'm saying. It's like her character and her appearance have absolutely nothing to do
Well,
with
her appearance is
stuff.
she's a created, like, highly athletic person. She's going to be attractive. So her appearance matters in that sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
she's not. She's gonna have low body fat, be athletic looking. You know.
Well, there's other reasons she doesn't have those as well, but story wise. But my point is that she's more like a detective that fights people to get to her goal. That's literally her kind of shtick throughout the entire thing, because she's trying to find out what's going on, who's telling the truth, who's lying, who are the bad guys, who are the good guys. And then she meets people, and then they assist her on the way, and one upgrades her gear, one flies her from place to place and helps from the back end through a robot. Like, it's just her trying to figure out everything and gathering notes and stuff. Like, it's not the thing that they're trying to make it out to be. Like, you can't just look at her and say, oh, she's such a complex character. I mean, she's really simple, honestly, but that's part of her charm.
How does she respond to their reactions? There's a lot more nuance
Also, play this game in Korean. It's so much better than American English. Ugh.
to this topic than just beautiful people worshiping themselves in mirrors all day and then passively shaming the ugly people around them. But we rarely see this topic explored.
Korean games also very rarely have out-of-shape people because Korea's not exactly high in out-of-shape people, nor is Japan. I think Japan's like obesity rate of the population is like 4%. It's very small, but in America it's like 40% plus and growing.
And instead fixate on the question of whether or not the body of a digital character is realistic to the physical body of a real woman.
Yes.
Well, in the world of relatively accessible plastic surgery, I think this question is ridiculous to begin with. Of course, to be
Okay, so he's contending that the model they used for Eve had plastic surgery. One, he hasn't shown anything, and I doubt he will have anything to show evidence of this fact. 2, it's going to be very minor plastic surgery, even if that was the case, but that's not going to change like the thinness of the waist or the slenderness of the legs. It's going to change things like nose, ears, eyes, that kind of a thing. It's not going to adjust. It's not going to adjust the entire body. And I mean, what does this have to do with Eve? Because if you're looking at the one person that did the mocap, which the entire character of Eve is done like based off of, with some additionals because they used an actual Korean model for it, and then they added some to her butt and her thighs and like proportions and a little bit more to the boobs. That was literally it. That's how they made the character of Eve. And there's jiggle physics too, so that helps. But it's just like he's trying to lean on this like it's not realistic. I'm like, just because somebody in Korea does have plastic surgery doesn't mean that everybody is having plastic surgery. And even if that was the case, that this is one of the people who did, her body size isn't going to be dramatically altered by that plastic surgery. So,
well, but see, these people complaining about this, these like left-wing loonies, they've been complaining about this for decades. Like, I don't know who Jim Lee is. He's a comic artist and writer and creator, editor. And so back in like, I'm at this sneeze. Oh, man. Thank you. It's probably only one. Usually like 2 or 3 on.
I always do them in pairs.
Yeah.
Weird.
So back in like the early '90s, like 30 years ago now, he became the main artist on the X-Men titles, right? And what that means is he got to define how the characters look for all the other books, even if other artists were drawing them. Jim Lee became like the master artist, right?
Yeah.
So
The go-to.
they took a character who's named Psylocke and another named Revenge, and they revised them, and they kind of merged them into one character, right? So to merge their abilities and their physical appearance and all that. And the 2 characters that emerged were still Psylocke and Revenge, but they basically looked alike and had each other's powers too, right? So the reason I'm explaining is because it changed the way both characters looked. So Jim Lee got to basically do what he wanted. Now the reason this is important was he made what at the time were the 2 most high-selling comic posters of all time. I think for like 20 years they were still the highest. One was both were life-sized. I have one of them myself. They were life-size Psylocke in real life in a bikini, like drawn. And
Of course.
so one was her standing up and the other one was her kneeling, and they were both life-sized, right? And he got slammed by saying, "Oh, women don't look like that." And he just pulled a picture of his wife in the same 2 poses. He said, "I literally drew out based on my wife. So shut the fuck up," is what he said. And that was it.
Basically, yeah. And that's I mean, because he brings up the hyper realistic proportions and like how it's not the norm, and it's like, okay, again, what's normal in America is not normal in the rest of the world. These people don't make these comparisons because they don't see outside of the American Western mindset, and it drives me nuts.
What I'm focusing on here though is what he's saying.
I'm talking about you.
Yeah, is that the people complaining about this are the problem, not the real problem.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, yeah, but we'll have to see what he says about this because he's going to ignore the fact that she actually is a small, slender woman.
Fair.
I think he is not accepting the reality, like of what the real problem is. He's talking about the manifestation of the problem, which is that some people are complaining about this, but not recognizing the real problem is these left-wing feminist lunatics who are generating the complaining.
Yeah.
Video games actually address this topic of the female form in any sort of thought-out way? No, not really. What we usually see in gaming is a bombshell of a female character who is completely disconnected from the implications of her own body.
What?
Heya.
That's really...
Yeah. Corneo's got certain tastes. This dress is so gaudy and impossible to move in.
See, his concept of self-aware is actually incorrect because when it came to Stellar Blade in his other video, he says, "Oh, even they know they're wasting our time," and then it shows an audio clip of saying, "Well, that was a waste of time," and it's like, that's out of context, because in the context is we did a search and we couldn't find what we were looking for, but then we get a different lead and then we go that direction. Like that's like how the story progresses, and it makes logical sense that that's the way the story progresses. But him saying, "Well, the Final Fantasy VII ladies are more self-aware, which makes them feel more believable," and it's like, she's not saying it's gaudy as in it's unrealistic. She's saying it's gaudy compared to what she normally wears. Aerith's pretty conservative in what she wears normally. She'll wear pretty dresses. She just doesn't wear super expensive, really bright, shiny type of wear. Like, he doesn't understand that he's saying the wrong thing and attaching it to just an instance where he thinks it fits when it doesn't clearly fit.
Correct.
Yeah.
Cloud?
Excuse me.
Versus the highly self-conscious nature of a real woman, which I'm sure will be
A real woman. I don't know if this guy knows what a real woman is, because he thinks they all fat and ugly, apparently.
the
Well, he
case
thinks
for
that all women like who are attractive are constantly aware that they're attractive and talk about it all the time.
So bimbos.
No, like he.
Although
he
ironically, bimbos aren't attractive.
not bimbos. Like one of those shows like Real Wives of Beverly Hills and Blessed Housewives or whatever. And
I don't waste time watching that nonsense.
you know the shows I'm talking about, right?
The real, what are they called?
All these attractive people on TV just talk how attractive they are all day.
MTV nonsense that they're doing now. Yeah, sure.
Stellar Blade as well, based on my time with the demo. Eve doesn't seem that aware of her own sexuality either. And I can see another one of these
She's not supposed to
awkward,
be.
sexless relationships budding between Eve and the main guy in the demo, but we'll see in the full featured game. But that tends to be the trend where everyone is really sexualized
This is a boss, by the way. This is like one of the first bosses you fight.
and hot, and yet have no interest in physically copulating with one another.
Because just because you exist and just because you're attractive doesn't mean you have to bonk everything in sight. That's the general rule.
Guess to put it lightly. That being said, I bring all this up because I find the moral conversation around a sexually exaggerated character, or hyper-proportioned as Digital Foundry describes it,
It's not these hyper proportioned something or another.
as uninteresting.
It's not even hyper proportioned. It's
Didn't we watch a video by this guy before?
this guy? Not that I know of.
I've seen some of his stuff. Maybe on one
Maybe.
of our channels.
Like I said, this stuff only popped up because of Stellar Blade coming back into circulation because of the PC release. This is when the demo was hitting and everything, apparently. And he puts a little time into it. So at this point, I can't blame him for not knowing what's going on with the characters and everything. But the point of the game isn't to just get with people like, oh, I'm a woman, they're a man, therefore we do the little sexy time dance. That's not the point. The point is we're being bombarded, like humanity is being bombarded by an alien enemy, and we're trying to figure out who they are and how to stop them and find out who the big bad evil guy is. That's the whole purpose. They don't have a reason nor time to indulge in these other flippant little romantic flings. It's just, he has more of a Grand Theft Auto brain.
What I think is the more interesting question is, how does the erotic content influence the
It's not even erotic, for crying out loud. She's just a person who has a nice body, is wearing a tight suit, and she ends up doing flips.
Well, it's erotic to him. We see.
Well, sure. But I'm saying it's not inherently erotic content. It's just he sees that content as erotic. It's like going to the beach. You see a woman in a bikini. It's not inherently erotic. You can make it erotic. A woman can see a man at the beach and he's just big, huge hunk in her eyes and whatever. But it doesn't mean he's inherently sexual. I mean, maybe he's trying to be, maybe he's not trying to be. I don't know. I don't care. But I'm just saying, something isn't sexual because, or erotic, I guess would be the better term, just because they're good looking. Like Adam is a good looking guy, but he doesn't give off any sexual component whatsoever because he's like, I'm trying to protect humanity at this point. So I'm doing what I can do to keep Eve alive so we can get down to the bottom of this. That, like, I don't know. It's hard to explain to this guy since I can't actually talk to him, but he just has a very strange position.
The gameplay experience, which can create a specific and engaging aesthetic. One example of
That's not the aesthetic they're trying to give off, though. That's the point I'm trying to make.
course, is the Ninja Gaiden series, which Itagaki explained as a contrast of extreme beauty and violence paired with one another. We can also see this in the legendary 90s anime aesthetic of Ninja Scroll, where the design of the female characters is very sharp and aggressive, but undeniably attractive. Not all sexy content is meant to serve the same purpose, but if we
So
continue
are the
to
male
lump it-
character.
It's yeah, it's one of those things.
it all together as either based or problematic, we can't hone in on the nuances of attractive character design. And what I'm trying to communicate in this video is that I think there is a lot of interesting discussion to be had on the topic of female characters in games. And I specify female because rarely does anyone actually care about how male characters are depicted.
I would argue against that, like, very much so. If I'm playing a male character, I want him to look freaking boss. I want him to be ripped. I want him to be a Chad, essentially. Like, I want him to go in and look like a boss as he just wrecks people's faces. That's what I want.
Yeah, but remember, this guy has that perspective of the lens of feminism.
I mean, it's true, but I guess the idea that men don't care about men characters that they play is ridiculous. Because, I mean, everyone in the like, if you were to look and poll all the Resident Evil players, men and women, say who's the best or who's the most attractive male character, hands down, it's going to be Leon. Every time, it's going to be Leon. Like, it won't even be a contest. Not saying that Chris Redfield is bad and not any other characters are bad. It's just Leon's peak. He's in the best Resident Evil game, Resident Evil 4. He's in, well, he just is a boss in all the scenes he's in, and he does really, really good. I like Chris too, but let's face it, Leon's the better character that people like, and he's not too buff, but he's not too small either. He's like average size, but he is dedicated to what he does, and he knows his craft. That's that. If you were to ask women who's the quote-unquote sexiest, probably Ada Wong. But you could have your Jill Valentines and stuff like that in there, but Ada Wong's like oozes sexuality because it's Ada Wong. But doesn't mean the other ones aren't good looking. It's just silly.
But unfortunately, it seems that this branch of conversation is completely dominated by political and cultural warfare. And if you think about it, none of it really makes that much sense. So I am hopeful that people like myself are getting bored of all the rhetoric. So let's start by talking about the commercial aspects of the female form. In the West, in an established mass audience, making games with sexualized content is a commercial risk. And as much as pundits
It's not a commercial risk if you make good games with good gameplay, good mechanics, and an actual, like, good amount of quality play. Because gameplay is lacking. Because, like, the issue with, like, the First Descendant, they made good-looking characters, and they focused really hard on that. But there wasn't a whole lot of content when it came out to hold people. So people burned through the content, and then were like, okay, well, I have no content to play, so they didn't stick around. They went to go do other things. But when they do a content drop, people come back to play. And then when that's done, they go out and do something else, because that's what it is. If they released a full-length game, and it's not even the First Descendant that has this problem. Destiny and Destiny 2 have the same problem because they're the same game as the First Descendant, just without the really attractive women. That's literally just it. But they both have the content issue.
I agree with you, but he's talking from, remember, that feminist lens.
Yeah, but
of,
I'm saying that I'm pointing out that he's blatantly wrong. Like it's not a risk because
Especially-
it's sexy. It's
especially
a
since
risk.
it's like a year ago, where these leftists still think that they can cancel these games they don't like. you
Well,
know?
let's put it this way. When he's saying, because this is about the demo time, so it's right before the actual release, he's saying it's a risk. Stellar Blade comes out and sells 1 million copies on the PS5. Not much of a risk.
Because reality is they can't cancel, like, the whole, like, when they started, they've been doing this for 30 years, but when it hit its peak was what, 2016, 2017, this whole woke left, like, cancel people bullshit. And they lost their power to cancel people in the last 2 or 3 years, right? And he's still operating in perspective that the risk is there that they'll put a Stellar Blade out and all of a sudden they'll cancel the artist and blah blah. So they don't care about that because but they don't understand that. They don't understand that not everyone agrees with their echo chamber.
They really don't get that. And again, that's it's the Western Americanized mentality as opposed to the rest of the world normal concepts.
No, this communist left exists everywhere.
No. I'm saying like overweight people in America think the rest of the world is like them. They think they're the normal. That's the normal body type.
I mean, look what they're doing in like England. People are going to jail for friggin' memes.
Well, yeah, as one does in a broken down, terrible political situation of a country. It's a dumpster fire, but yeah.
Would like to chalk up this phenomenon to some kind of direct political agenda.
He's coming after the people who disagree with his take from his side of the aisle. At this point, he's making it political because the rest of us are like, we just want to see something that we want the women to be attractive. We want the men to look boss.
Yep.
It's that simple. It doesn't even have to be attached to a political party. It doesn't have to be a political mindset. It's just that's what we want. And it doesn't have to be every single game. It doesn't have to be every single character. But we want those kind of things. We don't want mannish women and feminized men. That's not what we want. And the sales records for those kind of games show it. The play times of those games show it. The popularity of those games show it.
Trend I've noticed in game design is that money talks.
Okay. Last of Us Part 2 was literally a bait and switch. That's why people were like getting upset. GameStop literally changed their return policy because of The Last of Us Part 2.
Well, yeah, the Last of Us Part 2 sucked.
Because so many people were returning the game, they had to stop letting people return the game.
I should caveat that to say that because of the ending, Part 1 sucked as well. It was a great game that sucked at the end.
I don't know what in the ending of Game 1 you think sucks, because from what I understand, everyone likes the first one. Without excluding the DLC, is what you're
the problem a lot of that one. I'm not going to go off on this, but just say what it is. Like I was all set to buy Last of Us Part 1 and play it and enjoy it, and then I found out the ending of the game where Joel, the stupid thing about they have to amputate, cut our whole brain, and Joel kills them and kills humanity, and I'm like,
I mean, I like that actually personally, but
it's full of stupid though. I don't know who I told. Like for example, so you could take little pieces of our brain out. Like,
well, yes, it's stupid in that regard, but it's not necessarily the game is stupid. It's that the people who are trying to take her brain are stupid.
Okay,
like,
so let's
I wouldn't say the story itself is inherently stupid because of that. The writers might be stupid, but
let's say Lord of the Rings, instead of making an ending what he did, right? Woody Woodpecker ran in and got the ring and threw it into the volcano. Out of nowhere, right? Like a stupid ending, basically. Like,
okay.
So it would detract from the whole story you got to that point.
Sure.
For the ending to have no real connection to the survival. The story is about surviving and finding a way to survive.
I get that, but what I'm saying is that the doctor people, whoever they're freaking called, they're talking to a guy who's not a doctor. So
Joel isn't stupid.
But he's not intelligent when it comes
Joel
to things.
would have said, wait a minute. So you're telling me that you're the one person we know on the whole fucking planet who has a cure in her body. You're just gonna kill her on the off chance that your cure is gonna work. How about you try taking a piece of her brain out, doing some blood tests, maybe something
Yes, okay,
before
but
we
again,
kill the one.
if I was in that situation, I wouldn't know that stuff.
But Joel would. He's
Why would
has a
Joel
better-
know?
Well, for one, he's been told about medical stuff. I don't remember. I remember reading
Yes,
about
but
Joel's backstory.
there's so many like textbooks of medical information could go like 3 miles high.
But
of just
even
unique
if,
information.
like I said, even if you want to
He
make that
could be a
argument,
freaking
okay?
car mechanic for all we know.
Even
Like
if
he
you want to
doesn't
make that
know.
argument, the scientists doing the would
Yeah,
have been
I
doing.
agree. That could be the weakness of the writing, but I'm saying from a perspective, it's the same argument I make in Wheel of Time, where that One Eye Sedai says that Moraine and Swan were pillow friends. She doesn't provide evidence. It's an was it dramatic irony or whatever the term is called, where we know that there's been no actual pillow friend behavior going on between the two because it was never presented as such. It's just this random other character assuming that they're pillow friends.
Yeah, but see, here's the
And
thing.
that's what they run off of. And that's, to me, was stupid that people take that and run with it. But
We're gonna probably disagree on this, so I'll just make my concluding statement, okay?
well,
The
I'm
ending of-
agreeing and disagreeing. I'm agreeing that, yeah, that it was a stupid ending because the scientists should
And
have been
that to
smarter.
me would have made me want to return the game because I would have hated it if I bought it and played it.
Well, in the first one, I don't know, but the second one, it's the Joel dying thing that pissed everybody off. But and Abby playing as a character you hate is like the ultimate.
I will give you my best real life
terrible.
example, okay, of this in my life, right? So I used to be a big fan of the old Star Wars EU when Lucas owned it, right?
Mhm.
I think I had like 200 Star Wars novels and all that. You know?
I remember you burned them all, didn't you?
Yeah, because of that one thing.
Yeah.
Because that one thing ruined all the novels. And
We call that
just
overreacting.
couldn't-
Good sir.
because there's a character no one could stand who had no storyline through like, I don't know, 45 freaking novels.
Well,
He just wa-
what about this? Let's say you have every Superman comic from the first edition, perfect condition, all the way to the current day stuff. And then they start making Superman gay, or they start making him all these other things. He's effeminate now. He apologizes to women for things he didn't do. Are you going to burn your first edition, first issue of Superman because
Well, no, but
that?
I didn't burn my Star Wars movies or comic books. I just got all the novels that the character was involved in, which was all of them, because he was a little kid.
I mean, I would just get rid of the one that sucked and say, I guess it ends here, and then that's the story, because I don't see a reason to destroy an entire chain of things.
The Star Wars EU is written as one continuous story, basically. And
Well, it's supposed to
could
be, but
never-
when they have a different author come in who treats the characters differently,
like there's a great novel called The Courtship of Princess Leia. I don't know if you've ever heard of it or not.
No.
And it's one of the probably the top 10 best Star Wars novels ever, right? Or the one you probably heard of, the Thrawn trilogy.
Heir to the Empire is the one I'm familiar with, but
Yeah, the Thrawn trilogy and all that, right? I can never go back and reread those because I'm always in my head this little motherfucker Jason is going to like it just ruin the content for me. So Last of Us Part 2, like I'd play it through once, get to the ending where Joel murders humanity, and I'm like, but I wouldn't play Joel to murder humanity. Like I play Joel, you know what I
but
mean?
he's not murdering humanity. He's protecting Ellie. That's the only thing. That's his thing. He's protecting Ellie because she's like a surrogate daughter.
So I would get her out of there, or I would say, look.
But the guy attacked him. That's the reason he killed him. He wasn't going to kill him. He said, let me take her and I'll leave. And they said, no, I'm going to attack you. So they attacked him. And then in self-defense, he kills them. That's the whole thing, is that they did something stupid. He was put into a bad position and did what he had to do to get her out.
I remember reading about the ending and thinking it was horrible.
I mean,
horrible.
I understand that might be a perception that you could take from it. And I
Now,
understand
if it was
that,
a
but I'm
different
saying-
game, there are games like where humanity is winding down, and it's about you know what I mean. Like there's no saving it. There's not surviving it or whatever.
Well, the part that like screwed with everybody because of this is that when Ellie's like, oh sure, you can take some blood and we'll save humanity or whatever. But no, they wait for her to be unconscious, and then they're like, all right, we're gonna take her entire brain, basically kill her. They didn't give her any options. She didn't consent to any of that type of stuff. It was
Well,
literally
it's not even
medical
that. It's-
malpractice 101 right there. And then he's sitting outside being like, wait, hold on, what? You can't do that. And they're like, well, we can and we will. And it's like, hold up. No. I'm going to point a gun at you and say, I'm taking Ellie and we're leaving. And then they're going to cause a big hubbub and whatnot about it because they're like, this is the chance we have to save humanity. I'm like, if I was in the situation and my kid was on that table, if they come at my kid, they dying. Like, no.
I don't disagree with you. I'm not talking about the specific action. I'm talking about they
Well,
wrote the game into that corner.
I
where
know.
the scientists act like total morons.
Well, I mean, for all I know, they were total morons. I don't know. I never played the game, but I'm saying in that particular situation,
You
I can
might as well
understand.
stuck an auto mechanic in there for all the sake of purposes.
Well,
But anyway,
this is Naughty
well,
Dog.
let's
They're
go-
not
let's
exactly
just-
notorious for their great storytelling, but either way.
we're sidetracking. Let's get back. We're trying to make it a short video and we're turning it into a long video. Let's.
Sales talk, and most importantly, demographics talk.
They never talk about returns. They never talk about how long people actually play at peak. They never talk about the actual, like, how people feel about it after they play it. That's the stupid part. It's all about the sales, but then they cancel the third one. The season 2 of the TV show didn't do very well because of the endings and stuff. And then they're like,
As soon as they killed Joel, the ratings tanked.
yeah, because that's what happened with the game. But they're
Yeah.
like, but everybody's watching it. I'm like, but then they stopped. They canceled the third game. They did all this stuff because they
And-
did a terrible job. But they don't
As
see
bad
that.
as season like season 1, like we ripped it apart on Roman's channel, right? It had a lot of woke crap and stuff that wasn't in the game or whatever. But you know what? Like I was watching. I don't know if you know who the conservative twins are. The
Hodge twins?
the Hodge brothers. Yeah.
I've heard about them, yeah. I
So
don't
they
watch
had
them, but-
Neurotic on for an interview.
Oh, I
and,
heard about that from Neurotic. He's like, yeah, I just called them the Hodge twins because I didn't know, I couldn't tell them apart.
So and they're talking about Last of Us Part 2, and one of the brothers brings up, yeah, I was liking this show. You know, it had some woke stuff in it. It had some good stuff in it too. And he's talking about season 1, and I'm like, then they do season 2 and they kill off Joel, and then, you know,
Yeah, and that's the thing is it's like Joel was the glue that kept everything together, and they thought it would be Ellie.
well, that's the thing. Like the show, the first season is watchable. It just has a bunch of woke chunks in it that you kind of fast forward through.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
but that's good action. That's good action scenes. The relationship between Joe and Ellie is pretty good. You know, there's a lot of good stuff in there. If they just toned down the woke stuff, I mean, you know, it would have been a lot better. But
I agree. I didn't watch it. I have no interest in watching it, but
plus you are like me, and that you would think it's horrible because of all the woke stuff.
Well, yeah, I wait for reviewers now to do stuff. Like I took my oldest to go see How to Train Your Dragon, and I haven't been to a theater in so long outside of War of the Rohirrim, and that was for the channel specifically because Lord of the Rings stuff. But I haven't gone to see a thing in the film
Like
industry for so long, and I watched that with him, and I was like, man, it's been so long.
there was the episode with the 2 gay dudes in season 1.
That's episode 4, I think, or something like that.
3 or 4, yeah. So like 40, it's like 4. It's a 1-hour episode. 45 minutes of the backstory of the 2 gay dudes, which is not even in the game, and it's like, and it
It's
changes
the
game
Wraith
stuff,
effect,
right?
is what it is.
You know, and when I
to
reviewed it, I said,
normalize
I can't-
the relationship.
well, I said when I reviewed on Roman Show, I said I can't tell you what happened because I knew when I found out when the flashback started and ended, and I fast forward through the entire section. It's like 44-minute section.
Oh my.
Because it's totally irrelevant. Because totally irrelevant to what happens in the show because they kill themselves basically.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's just another statistic.
And what I mean by demographics is if you think about it, the average shifting age of the target gamer for mass audiences has increased over the years. Millennials are getting older.
It's called TikTok brain.
And as we are getting older, our tastes are starting to shift. So back in the PS2 era when we were horny teenagers, we were very excited to see Taki in skin-tight uniforms in Soul Calibur 2. But now that we're older, married men with children, and we're trying to play some games maybe in the living room or in eye shot of our wives or children, then we're starting to get a little bit
If you don't have that relationship with your wife, you're doing relationships wrong. just saying.
more shy about characters like Eve appearing on screen. So not
He's also a big Devil May Cry fanboy.
That's a
Not
horrible.
only is
That's
it
another
some
show they
kind of,
messed
like,
up, by the way.
cultural thing.
The what?
That's another show that they wrecked, by the way.
They made oh, the cartoon animation or whatever. Yeah.
They did the same thing they did to Last of Us, where they insert a bunch of woke non-story element. Like there's a lot, everyone says there's good stuff in there that relates to the actual game and all, but that there's
It's drowned
a
out
bunch
by
of-
all the other stuff that doesn't matter.
yeah, like you have to like find an edit of it that doesn't have all that basically.
Kind of like what they did with The Hobbit, where there's like a fan cut version of it where it takes out all the unnecessary stuff and actually
Yep.
makes a decent Hobbit thing. I still need to find that because I want to start watching it.
I should have a copy of it somewhere. I'll look around.
Cool. Just let me know whenever.
There's supposedly two good. There are two good fan edits. I have one of them.
Cool.
Should have one of them.
That people always talk about, but I do think a real big aspect of this is the shifting age demographic where we are becoming more proper and everything, and that's why all the main characters are like getting old, and why Kratos is now a dad with like a family and everything, so that we millennials can continue to relate to him.
I don't think that's why they did it, but okay. Maybe they did, but I don't think that's why they did it.
But anyway, when these large-scale companies
Am I the only one who thinks that looks terrible for a PlayStation game? But whatever.
are in their boardrooms discussing how every game they make needs to be a massive hit, otherwise the company is going to tank and start laying off staff, any creative risk becomes a giant liability in their minds. This is why, even with a franchise like Bayonetta, where Platinum have gotten the green
See, he mentioned Bayonetta. He's infatuated with Bayonetta, but Stellar Blade's the problem.
light
Also notice he hasn't really talked about Stellar Blade for like the last 5 minutes.
with the character's sexual portrayal, they still dressed
Oh, also, did you know that people are really pissed that she's straight and married with a kid? Like she's literally a trad wife, and they're like really pissed about it.
Yeah.
They're like, she needs to be gay with this other character. It's like, no, she's married, has a kid. It's the same people who are mad that Link's canonically a Christian. It's the funniest thing ever.
her down and hedged their bets with the naive angel mode in Bayonetta 3 because the audience demographic for large-scale games needs to keep increasing to be sustainable. Pretty much all large-scale games now, AAA games, need the biggest audience possible. They need
Which is a false statement. That's not what you need.
everyone to be a prospective customer. So any possible controversy or potentially limiting factor of design needs to be exterminated. So with the female form, any edge might not play to mass audiences consistently. It could. I'm not saying that there aren't cases of sexy large-scale games succeeding, but devs know that going in that direction is a financial risk.
That's a game you might enjoy, is Nier Automata.
So what we've seen at large scale is companies searching for character designs that are as broadly acceptable as possible. Just look at the shifts in the presentation and sexy elements of the Team Ninja games after Dead or Alive 6.
Okay. Team Ninja has a very complicated history because Team Ninja released Dead or Alive 5 last round on PC, right? And when they did, they explicitly told people, do not mod this game. You know what's the one thing you don't tell the internet? To not do something. And within 24 hours of release, they had nude mods, they had outfit mods, and everything like that. And Team Ninja's like, we're not going to release anything else for PC ever again, blah, 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 blah. And they did actually continue putting them on there. But it's just like, Team Ninja was like, we're going to sell you 7 outfits for $90. That was Team Ninja. But they're not going to have just one of those. They're going to do like 50 of those. So
I
it's
think
like,
we might have talked about this before.
well, this was a while ago, so maybe we have. But it's like, it was like $5,000 to get all the DLC for the Dead or Alive thing. Well, guys, the game doesn't even cost that much. I could buy so many copies of the games. I could buy literal, actual consoles plus the games for like 10 people before I even hit the cost of your DLC for one of these games. That's how ridiculous that got. Because they didn't respect the players. They wanted to take advantage of the players. So the players just said, we'll mod our own stuff. We'll make our own outfits and all that stuff. And it worked. They just threw a hissy fit.
6 was dropped by Evo and flopped commercially. They attacked any hint of bouncing with a sledgehammer. And speaking of bouncing, let's talk about Stellar Blade. I'm hearing a lot of talk about the political implications
It's nice of him to start actually talking about Stellar Blade when it's totally not the main point of this video, but okay.
of this game's character design and how it plays into a larger cultural narrative. But what I am not hearing, which I think is really important to recognize, is how much this narrative is being imposed on the game to begin with because of the developer's background. And so for those not familiar with Shift Up's history, they began life creating very fan service heavy gacha games. This is a popular form.
I'd like to point out that Nikkei Got Us a Victory is actually like fun because it doesn't have limitations on the campaign like most of the games do, where you have like so much energy and once you use it you can't continue. It like just lets you keep going. It's the limitation is your level of your characters.
Yeah.
And it's actually kind of fun. I've never capped out on it, and I try to make it to my play style and work with what I can do, and it's a similar style of play. They even added Stellar Blade and Nier Automata content into the game, and I believe on the PC edition they added a Nikki Got Us a Victory mini game mode on the Stellar Blade side of things. So some fun little stuff you can get that way.
Of game design in South Korea, of course, and the most likely place we will continue to see emerging studios in the future, I think, but that's a topic for another video. Anyway, with Shift Up, making highly sexual characters to the point of absurdity is how the
Wow, cute anime girls. Who could have ever thought?
studio made its bones in the first place. So with a project like Stellar Blade, which is now being published by Sony, both sides of this equation
That's the one problem I have with Shift Up, is they should have kept complete total rights of Stellar Blade. They shouldn't have gone to Sony and basically signed them away.
are willing to take the creative risk where other Western developers wouldn't. Shift Up is a newly growing studio with a PhD in
He's playing this on freaking PC. What a loser.
tantalizing character design, and Sony, terrified by the shrinking console market, desperately needs exclusive games. So both of them are in a position where they are willing to go all in despite potential backlash. In my opinion, this is the convergence of circumstances that has created Stellar Blade, and right now there is a massive opening in the market when it comes to adult games. And what I mean by adult is not just violent games, because we have no problem with our children playing those, but rather games that stimulate
the limbic system.
if you know what I mean. Which brings us to the important topic of individual tolerance when it comes to character designs that are destined to arouse. Sex is a contentious subject just generally, so I thought I'd offer an interesting analogy. Alcohol. Alcoholic content. Is alcohol immoral? Is there something ethically problematic about depicting characters consuming alcohol? Well, of course the answer is it's complicated. A lot of it comes back to individual tolerance and experience that isn't as universal as people like to think, because I'm from Idaho and I know many proper Mormon boys who would say alcohol is immoral, but at the same time,
They're also not playing freaking Stellar Blade. The frick is your point?
I also know vegan straight edge punks from California who would also be against the consumption of alcohol, but for entirely different reasons. Sexualized content is the same. For me, being a millennial,
So because there's somebody out there somewhere that won't consume alcohol, showing alcohol in your game is bad. You do realize you can, like...
Well,
play-
you lose money.
You don't, because they probably weren't going to play your game anyway.
Well, that's the theory, you know.
Well, yeah, but the theory is we're going to lose money. I'm like, you're going to lose money anyway because you removed the content that should be there. It's like playing the Godfather video games and then you never smoke cigars and you never drink whiskey or scotch or whatever. Like, it's stupid. But to say, like, there's this group of people, look, all these Mormon kids aren't buying our rated M games because we have sexy women. No, it's because it's a video game, for one, and two, it's rated M. Like, they're not going to participate in it anyway. They're not the target audience. If you're making your video games for Mormon boys, boy, do I have a bridge to sell you, because you're doing it wrong. You go to your target demographic, which is, shock and horror, gamers. Gamers can tell apart from different things. I even saw a post the other day where somebody was saying, it was kind of a meme, but it was, this guy's like, yeah, I grew up in a really strict Christian household, and we weren't allowed to, have certain games, and I had to like beg my parents to let me get Skyrim, but they didn't want me to because it had magic in it. So when I finally did get it, they got it for me. They told me I had to play the whole game without using magic because magic's bad, and I was like, yeah, it's a satanic panic nonsense. But that's like a very small percentage of people. Most people let their kids play Grand Theft Auto. And I'm talking 7-year-olds playing Grand Theft Auto. Grand Theft Auto is not even freaking really good for 18-year-olds, let alone 7-year-olds.
I don't know how small a group of people that really is, but I agree. Conceptually, I'm okay with you. Remember, it isn't just like the American audience. Like these big corporations want as many people as possible.
Sure, but what I'm saying is that if you have content in a game that's optional, like alcohol, like you can play a game without drinking alcohol, hypothetically speaking. But to derive the entire world, like going into a Viking territory and not having ale for them to drink would seem out of place. Like, what are you drinking? I'm drinking water because I'm a Viking. It's like, no.
We're used to freedom of expression in our product. And
sure, but they do patches for that.
Well, that doesn't work in countries like, I don't know,
North Korea,
in Indonesia, which has morality laws, and that's a 1 billion person market basically. China.
I mean, and if that was the case, there are ways to get around it, but you don't go and market a just blank generic game and say, we're going to put that, like, look at the Spider-Man thing. Spider-Man 2 had, was it Spider-Man 2 or Spider-Man 1? It might have been either of them. Had LGBTQ flags flying for some reason in New York City. And when you go to the Arab Emirates, they changed them. They didn't put that in there because they patched it out so they could have the market. That's what you do. You just change it. Change a line of dialogue saying it's apple juice. It's not ale. It's not whiskey. It's not
Here's
scotch.
the thing, though. These corporate executives who don't care about the actual content don't want to have to spend the money. They want one product in all markets.
And here they are having to make multiple products in multiple markets anyway, because China is very, very specific. The Arab Emirates are very, very specific. Like,
and that, again, we're not disagreeing. What I'm saying is these corporate executives who have the power don't care.
I don't even know if necessarily they don't care. It's just they're too stupid to understand it. But I'm not an executive, so what do I know?
Millennial bred and raised in the 2000s era of character design for series like Dead or Alive or Soul Calibur. By the way, the fact that Soul Calibur somehow does not have the same stigma as DOA is insane if you just stop to look at the character designs for 2 seconds. But anyway, what I mean is that I have a high tolerance. I can pretty much drink my Jack Daniels,
except for Stellar Blade. That's where he draws the line.
On the rocks. But for other people, outside of all these big universal value judgments, they are going to be more sensitive to sexual content for whatever reason. Just look at the French writer at IGN. He was not pleased with Eve's character design, to say the least. Also, just as an aside, now that I'm getting to know the French better, I'm quite sure that the French IGN writer only expected his article to ever be seen by his fellow French citizens, because I've noticed this funny attitude among French people that when they write in French, it's somehow password protected against English speakers from ever accessing the writing. So I can
Except there's people in France that send America the stuff and say, look at this BS.
just imagine after the big online blowup, the French writer being called by his boss and just saying over and over, I wrote in French. What the How did the rest of the world even find it?
Because people in France are tired of this crap too.
But anyway, my point is that I obviously
No, it was the internet back. That was PR disaster. It wasn't Sony.
disagree with the French writer's assessment of Stellar Blade's character design, but at the same time, it feels a little much to take the next step and be outraged by his outrage. I'm not saying that you can't make fun of him a little bit. I still laugh about Digital Foundry coining the term hyper-proportioned, but I think a sense of humor around this topic is a lot more enjoyable than this back and forth moralistic.
I mean, a good sense of humor goes a long way. I will agree with them on that. I just think you actually have to know how to implement it and have good argumentation and points to make it actually count.
Showdown that we currently see. It reminds me of when you go to a bar, returning to the alcohol analogy, and there's that one guy who needs everyone else to drink because he doesn't want to drink alone and feels self-conscious about his own drinking. And so let's just calm down, everyone. Not all of us are going to have the same tolerance levels for this type of thing. And in this light, is the provocative character design of Eve in Stellar Blade an indulgence? Yes, I think it is. But at the same time, I think Blade knows its target audience, and it's coming for its audience by writing this thin line.
I hate when he says Blade. Just call it Stellar Blade. Or SB. Don't just call it Blade. That's just stupid. Ugh, it pisses me off.
Of being provocative while not being full-on pornographic. So you're
It's not even remotely pornographic.
gonna get buzzed, but you're not going to get
Blacked out.
I mean, if you're getting buzzed from Stellar Blade, you've been sheltered your entire life.
And in the year 20
I mean, now maybe with mods on PC, you'll get a little bit more of a buzz out of it. I don't know, because I haven't looked at the mods yet, because I don't have it on PC. But who knows? But
2024, is this style of design going to appeal to everyone? No, it is not.
of course not. Dark Souls games don't appeal to everyone inherently and generally speaking. Like, Mario will sell more copies than Elden Ring will, because Mario has a larger audience called children. Duh. Like,
Not, but it appeals to me, and I am looking forward to it. And so if you enjoyed this
I couldn't tell that from your other video, but okay.
topic video, which I had a lot of fun putting together, please keep an eye out for my full Stellar Blade review, where I actually talk about the gameplay of the game, but I wanted to get this sort of aesthetic
That's the one I did the video on already.
conversation out of the way before the review. And so if you enjoyed this, please like, subscribe, tell all your friends, and if you can, support the Patreon if you're
Yeah, that's it. Oh.
I almost can't tell what that guy is. Is he in the cult or not?
He's a very wishy-washy. I mean, I don't really care either way. I just think that if he's making an argumentation and he's not in the cult, then he just makes poor arguments. If he is in the cult, he still makes poor arguments.
If arguments are from the cult's perspective, I can't tell if he's in the cult or just trapped.
Don't know. But either way, I don't particularly care. I just care more if he's making a good argument. I'll be like, yeah, that's a good argument. If he's making a bad
Is he
argument,
the guy who did the video with the wizard?
no,
Mm.
no.
His
You're
voice
talking
toned
real life fake wizard is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's a different guy. He's the canceled Disney Plus guy. Shout out. But no, like to me, it makes more logical sense to be like, okay, we have a character. She's hot. She's sexy. She's got a horde of sexy outfits and non-sexy outfits. Like the Kuma is one of my favorites, and it's just literally a bear mascot outfit. Like, that's it. So, this is all kind of stupid. But in trying to imply that this is all sexual based or it's provocative. Well, I guess it's provocative to people who aren't familiar with the female body, which means it shouldn't be provocative to any women, hopefully. And it shouldn't be. Oh, I lost him. We done lost him. Matt. No. Alas, Matt, I knew him well. Welcome back.
Side effect using the phone. I pressed apparently somewhere in like Android on the phone, like you press the wrong part of the blank white space, it does something.
I just heard an echo in the back going, "Pull the lever, Kronk." He disappeared.
No, but I'm like, we're mostly in agreement on this, like this stuff. Like,
how dare we have an echo chamber? Sorry, go ahead.
You know, like this whole thing with fan service, like
People need to grow up about it, honestly.
Well, no, they're not going to because it's in their political, like the whole DEI, third wave feminism, fourth wave feminism, that whole bullshit about their pronouns, LGBTQ, and all that stuff. That's their communist. That's their what they're using to try to implement communism. So until they're not going to give up on it until they it used to be. For those who don't understand what's happening is The communists tried for 100 years to use economics, like the playing the rich off against the poor and all that, to try to implement socialism. Socialism and communism are two sides of the same coin. Okay, um, so that didn't work because Western nations, especially, they implemented free market economics, had upper mobility for poor people. Okay, as well as poor people, not as well as lower incomes having better life at times as time passed, and you can save money.
Well, free market by definition just allows you to have more control over your life.
Well, again,
From an economic standpoint, anyway.
Let's not get into the whole.
Well, I know. I'm just saying, like that's the explanation of why you can go
Yeah.
up or down as you
Yeah.
wish yourself, where everything else controls you and your outcome.
So they realized it wasn't working, and then in the 50s they said, we got to crack the United States open because that country's propping up the antithesis of our ideology. So we got to get it, and they made inroads. That's why they had the McCarthy hearings. People forget. They call them the McCarthy hearings, but it wasn't McCarthy who was the problem. He was investigating the penetration of communism into banking and the government. It was the House on affair, the House side. The McCarthy was senator. There was the House on something committee that did all the stuff where they boycott, they were canceling people and all that. Where they were barred people from working in America and all that. Anyway, but the communists got their inroad there and said, wait a minute, we need to come up with something that the Americans aren't going to buy the economic argument, right? So this guy came up with critical theory, right? And the idea of critical theory was to basically create an ideology and say that everything that disagrees with you is following this ideology, white power, basically. And eventually became critical race theory, right? But critical theory basically used the whole concept, and they swapped out the economic argument with the critical theory thing, which was that there was the power and the unpowered. Those in power were following white power, white privilege, and racism and all that, and those out of it were, the people of color, right? And now that's not working anymore. Okay, so these communists are going to go back to the drawing board and try to find something else.
It's almost like communists are used to having shortages. Thank you. Sorry.
There you go. And the problem is the ideology gets out there, and guys like this, who we can't tell if he's actually one of them and doing it on purpose, or just got caught up in program because he went to school.
And again, I don't even really care. He could be a full-blown better red than dead if he wants to be communist or whatever. I don't even care. I care more that his argumentation is terrible. I care more that his opinion is just not taking into account actual facts and realism and whatnot. He's ignoring reality in favor of whatever he wants to believe. And he's free to believe what he wants to believe. It's just, it's weird that he's trying to share that belief in its complete entirety of incorrectness with everybody else. When it's just like, I played the game and pretty much everything you said was wrong. And I've seen the character and pretty much everything you said was wrong. Or he's trying to bait and switch, where he's trying to say, oh, look, it's all provocative. And then he goes around and says, but I think it's okay. And then he makes his next video. His next video is basically, I don't like this game. And you're like, well, which is it? This video, you said, I like her design. And the next video, you say her design's always there. Like, one of the opening things you see in his video is, have fun just staring at Eve for a long time. And I'm like, well, yeah, it's a third-person game. You're going to be staring at her. You stare at a third-person character you're playing because it's third person. If it was first person, you wouldn't be. You'd be staring through their eyes. Like, have you ever played a video game? And I'm not convinced he's aware of things. And I really, really wish I had that 3-hour video still because it was fun. I really enjoyed making it, which is very rare for something that long by myself. But in terms of like, it's just bad argumentation. If somebody has good argumentation, I'm be like, okay, you got some good points. You may convince me of something or other, but and none of the Stellar Blade takes so far that I've seen does he have any type of sway over me, because I'm not convinced he's fully beaten the game. He doesn't know probably about the 3 story endings. He doesn't know about upgrades. If you unlock them in the first playthrough, the New Game Plus playthrough, you can unlock additional stuff that's even more powerful or better or whatever, and it makes basically your gameplay more free. Because I went through the first gameplay of Stellar Blade with all the walkthroughs. I wanted to unlock everything. I wanted everything as neat and concise as I could possibly get because I wanted to unlock the outfits. I wanted to unlock the combat variants. I wanted the exosuits. I wanted all the things that would help me beat these bosses because some of them are actually hard. And it's like, okay, well, I need to have the power up to help me with that because I'm not like a Dark Souls player hardcore person. But when I can go through the second time, and I can get more unlocks, and I can play better because I have more power at my disposal, well, that's a good thing. So this is information people would like to know, but his entire point on Stellar Blade ignores all of that stuff completely. And that drives me insane. But I don't remember if I did a Stellar Blade review or not. I might have. I don't remember. But point being, it's a fun game. It's got an attractive character, but he mischaracterized the idea of provocative sexuality or whatever with what her actual character was. So ultimately, it doesn't really even matter. But, it is what it is. But we can go ahead and wrap that there before we hit the 1.5 hour mark. But, Matt.
It's a short video for us.
It is kind of a short video for us. But, Matt, what do you got coming up? Promo stuff? All that jazz?
Oh, so tomorrow. Oh, on the Thursday past when you first see this video, right?
The Thursday before.
Yeah, on Roman and Empire, where we were talking about our favorite superhero adaptations, okay, movie adaptations. On the Wednesday past, well, every Wednesday it's Wednesday nights overbooked with on Joke Boys channel. Talk about wrestling. So that's regardless. That's what I got going on. I might actually try to film a little video for myself later with 5 minutes to talk about.
Cool beans. And again, Matt's stuff will be down below, as well as Crimson, as well as the guy we're talking. What is it? I don't remember his name. It's like the Electric something. Let me see. The Electric Underground. So that will be available down below, and I don't think I'll be doing any more reacts to this guy because his content goes every which way, but I only covered it because of the Stellar Blade stuff. Especially with the resurgence, because now everybody's roasting everybody else because everyone else is like the journalists are melting down over Stellar Blade because she's hot and the mods are getting even spicier. But it is what it is, I guess. Yeah. But aside from that, I will be live streaming Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. Playing games. Lately, I've been on Fable 2, and I'm getting closer and closer to the end of that. And then people who join the Discord can vote on what I get to play next. Will it be Fable 3? Will it be Battle for Middle-earth? Will it be something else? Who knows? We have a lot of games. I have a lot of games to play. So, I mean, hey, I got the Bayonetta games. I can play through all 3 of those. I have Nier Automata, Nier Replicant. I got those games if somebody wants those kind of stuff. Or I could go through Witcher 3 and the expansions. I got a lot of games, so I could do a lot of stuff.
He's got game, guys. He's got game.
I got game. A lot of them. I think my GOG's now up to like 220 or so games, and I paid for like maybe 3 of them.
Well, put up a poll. Put up polls. So
I do. I have an entire thing where it's literally just here's these things, and you drop an emote or whatever, that emoji that says I like this one, and the one that gets the most emojis, that's the one I'm going to play. So I let people, and they also thread. So if you want to put like a reason as why you'd like to do this one, build a thread, fill it up with whatever you want. There's a long list of stuff I have. It could be longer, obviously, because I have like 800 games on Steam, and I have 200 on GOG, and then I have physical copies of hundreds of games as well. But there's also a section if I don't have it, and like if you request it and I don't have it, it goes in another section that says, hey, I'd like to see you play this. We had NBD Forever had recommended I play, or requested I play Final Fantasy 7, 8, and 9. I've never played Final Fantasy because turn-based isn't typically my thing, but I At least not that kind. I prefer Baldur's Gate turn-based more than just like the lineup turn-based. I play the Third Age Lord of the Rings stuff because it's Lord of the Rings, but I'm not like amazing at it or anything. But needless to say, that's cool stuff you can get on the Discord. So check out the Discord down in the description below. Love to have you there. Love to hang out with you. But if you make it to a live stream, whether it be a game, a chill stream, or if we ever do one of these live, would love to chat with you in the Discord or in the chat, and also in the Discord, Twitter, all that fun jazz. Like, comment, subscribe, all that fun jazz. You guys know the thing. But if you made it this far, you are awesome. If you didn't make it this far, but you did give us a chance, you're still awesome. You just don't know that I told you that. So thanks everybody for hanging out, and we'll have the next video come out whenever it comes out. So keep an eye out for what comes out, and we'll see you hopefully in the next one. Thanks everybody. Remember, walk in the light, my friends.
Later.